this is my favorite, this is my favorite topic. So I am actually glad to have somebody here with me while I get to talk about it. Because this is really what started it all for me. Even back like before literally before I even thought that I needed to work on like weight loss or being healthy or anything like that. Actually, it was like 2012, so I remember that very clearly. But I actually like ended up crying over a McDonald's chicken sandwich. And I remember this moment very, very clearly was 2000. So that's almost 14, 13 years ago. But and like really my health and fitness and all of that really I didn't start like really focusing or getting into that. It was like 8 or 9 years ago. So this is like meal planning for me predates any of that. And honestly, at that moment, what was going on is I had a toddler running around in the house, and I had gone back to school for either I think the second time trying to finish my degree. So I was working full time, going to school full time. I had a toddler running around, and we had frozen pizza twice that week. And then then I sent Dustin, I was just like, just go get food, just go get whatever. And he got McDonald's, and they got my order wrong. And so not only was my family eating crap food every night, but then they got my crap food order wrong, and I cried over a McDonald's chicken sandwich. And so back then in 2012, this is really before. I mean, yeah, there was social media. There was Facebook and stuff like that. I almost said MySpace. MySpace is where it all began. But there was Facebook and stuff, but it wasn't what it is today. That's not, you remember MySpace, don't you? um, but like it wasn't where you went for advice. It wasn't it was still just where you went to upload pictures or to tell people what you were up to or share about your vacation or something like that. It was not where people went for advice. And a new thing had kind of hit, and it was Pinterest. And I had this one like super crafty friend that was just like, just look it up on Pinterest. Like there's meal planning ideas on Pinterest. And I was just like, what's that? Like I literally had no idea what it was, but honestly, it started out and look, I dug this out, okay? I got to show you this. It's not all put together like it was. But literally it was I that's where I learned about meal planning when I looked it up on Pinterest, and there was like this super crafty lady that said to take a big picture frame and make a menu. And what I did, so I'm lucky I even found this frame still like put together.
That
Isn't
is awesome.
that cute?
Did you just write with a dry erase marker then?
No, I didn't. So
Oh,
what I did was I just took a box of crayons that my son had, and I emptied it out, and I cut the top of the box off to make like a little bucket, and I hot glued the bucket like to the corner. And then so this was like craft paper, or what word am I looking for? Like scrapbook paper. It was
oh,
like
yeah.
a whole thing of like all this different like scrapbook paper. And so I cut it into like little tabs of paper, and I would write a meal on it. I would just write like cheeseburgers. I would write grilled cheese and tomato soup, like tater tot casserole, all the things that I knew how to cook at the time. And I just wrote it all out on every single like individual little pieces of paper. And then I laminated them all and cut them out. So there were these like little laminated tabs of like these meal cards, like tiny little meal cards. And I made them to fit in this little crayon box that I also covered with the pretty craft paper. That's what I mean. Like that part's all gone. Like I don't have any idea what happened to it. It was not it's attached to this. And then what I did was I hot glued like on one side, I hot glued clothespins. So there was clothespins down one side. I had this little bucket, and each clothespin said like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And so what I would do is I would pull all of my little meal cards out, and I would just kind of shuffle through them and look at what there was, and I would pin it in the clothespins that were like on the side, and that was my meal plan. And I had one crayon bucket that was like all the meals, and then I had a crayon bucket like that was like my discard pile. And so like as we would have a meal, I would put them in the discard pile, knowing like, okay, we've had that recently, so I need to choose like from up here. And that was my very first ever meal plan. And when I wrote this, I was like, I'm showing everybody that. I'm going to dig it out. And like I said, I'm lucky that I even still had this. I wish it was all put together so you could get the whole visual. I might have to recreate it.
I was gonna say, or we'll have to go out to Pinterest after this. I'm sure we can find a replica, right?
Right, right. I was even digging through like pictures of my kitchen. Like I know like pictures that had been taken in my kitchen, like in that era of my life, trying to like dig through to see if I could even get like a picture of it because it was hung on the wall. Like Dustin hung it up on the kitchen wall for me and everything. But that's literally how I started meal planning. And luckily now there are so many. That was like that. I'm pretty sure I still had a flip phone or at least a phone that just like had a keyboard on it. It wasn't like all touch
Sure.
screen. So it's like,
Yeah.
but now we have
Yes.
like all these apps, we have all of these ways that we can meal plan. It's so much simpler. You do not have let me tell you, in my 37 years, that is the craftiest thing that I've ever done in my entire life. I did it one time and the stunt was never repeated.
One and done.
That's right. Because you know what? I found out real quick I was not made for that. I mean, I do have some creative things that I enjoy doing. Crap like that was a labor of love. Actually, that was a labor of desperation, is what that was. It was a labor of sheer desperation because I was like, I cannot feed my family another frozen pizza. And I just cried over a McDonald's chicken sandwich. Like I was at a very low point. But but hopefully my like meal planning origin story gives you hope that
A
if I
hundred
can do
percent.
it. And here's the thing is I've done and I've tried all of the crazy things, and really over the years I have simplified it. I have simplified it down to something that I promise no matter what situation you're in, I promise you can make it work. You can customize it. It's flexible and you can absolutely make it work. So, here we go. All right. So we are not going to meal prep for 6 hours on Sunday. I don't have time for that. I know you don't have time for that. But just like everything else that we've been talking about, we are making space for the things that give us back our energy, right? So just like I talked about last week, as we start getting into like our anchor habits and things like that, this is what we've been making space for, right? So you're gonna find out if you did not do what we were supposed to do in weeks 1 and 2, that's going to get real difficult to continue doing because that's what creates the space, right? So that's a process that creates the space. It makes us aware, so that we can choose our anchor habits so that we have the time and capacity to be able to do these things that are going to make a big difference in our life. So, what is I mean, what's big, the thing to understand about meal planning is we're going to get into it. Is it's not about a new diet, okay? Meal planning can be separate from dieting or weight loss goals or, whatever. Meal planning can be an exclusively separate habit from having a fitness goal, okay? So you don't need a new diet. That's not what this is about. It's about creating better defaults so that when it is time to focus on what you are eating, this part is already so much easier. it is giving you the capacity to be able to do that. That's going to make more sense as we move on. So, we're going to settle this right off the bat. We're going to settle this in the very beginning. Is this all diets work? Okay. All diets work. And so before we get into the actual act and the framework of meal planning, because we're talking about sometimes we associate meal planning with healthy eating or cleaning eating or changing how we're eating or whatever, but it's an exclusively separate habit. But one of the ways that I want to ease your mind about that to really help you separate diet from meal planning is settling very easily how all diets work. So if you look at intermittent fasting, somebody does intermittent fasting, and they say that it works. Well, guess what? It does work. Intermittent fasting works because you restrict your eating window to a certain number of hours so that you'll eat fewer calories. Keto, carnivore, whatever you call it, they're the same. The carnivore diet is essentially keto because you're going into ketosis because you're only eating proteins and fats and not carbs. The thing is, it cuts out carbs. It cuts out an entire food group. So what are you going to do? You're going to eat fewer calories. Mediterranean diet cuts out simple carbs and red meat. Guess what you're going to do? You're going to eat fewer calories. Whole 30, all whole foods. It cuts out processed food. So what does it do? It cuts out an entire food group, and what happens? You eat fewer calories, right? Vegetarian, vegan, pescatarian, all of these things cut out an entire food group, and so you naturally eat fewer calories if you're doing it right, right? Macro tracking is a form of portion control. If you're controlling your portions, what are you doing? You're eating fewer calories. So what they all have in common is that something is cut out or something restricts your calorie intake. That's it. Whatever the name is, it's just a different name to identify what's been cut out so that you can consume fewer calories. So if I said that, I feel like I've said that way enough. That's going to be echoing in your noggin like all night long. But what you need to decide on, the only thing that you need to decide on when you're choosing a diet is what you can do long term, not just in order to lose weight. I can cut that out just to lose weight, right? But what happens when you get done and you add that food group back in? Or you lose the weight, and so instead of intermittent fasting, you go back to eating all day. The reason why all diets work is the exact same reason why when you feel done with that diet, the weight comes back on because you just add back in whatever you were restricting in order to lose the weight. So the thing is, all diets work, but what you need to do when you are at a point when you're ready to work on some sort of fitness goals or weight loss goals or whatever is choosing a lifestyle. Okay. There are people that absolutely love like the pescatarian diet or the Mediterranean diet. They enjoy it. They enjoy those foods. They don't feel like they're missing out on anything and they can live that lifestyle. That's great. That's not the vast majority of people though. I will add a caveat really quick that if there is a medical reason, right? So if you have type 2 diabetes or if you have celiac disease, if you're gluten intolerant, dairy intolerant, all of the things, if there is a medical reason that you need to cut out certain foods, then obviously you must do that, right? But for if you don't have any reason, there's no reason to cut out a food group if you don't want to. What we want to think about is living a lifestyle, okay? So now that that is hopefully settled, my like little clicker thingy's not wanting to. There we go. There we have it. Then we can get into the meal planning, and this part is actually going to go pretty smoothly. I think it's pretty simple to understand, guys. I literally simplified it down as much as I possibly could, but what I want you to understand after going through all of that is that meal planning can be a separate habit from like macro tracking or trying to hit a protein goal or restricting or portion control or things like that. This is a habit that we want to get into that's going to create space and more brain capacity, give us back more energy, help us live a little bit more structured, all the things that make us feel better. And then later on, if we want to add in some things that's going to make it easier to do that. All right, so why so we're going to dive into all of this. Food is fuel. We're going to go into why nutrition feels so overwhelming, how to clean the slate, how to view food as feedback. That's really hard to say quickly. Food is feedback. And because I want to say food is fuel, I've been saying that for so long. I have to stop myself. And then just the power of meal planning. What is the actual power behind it? It's more than just I'm ready to lose weight and that means I have to meal plan. That's not what it's all about. And then I will give you the framework. So, food is emotional. Food is cultural, it's social, and it is exhausting. Am I right? The thing is holidays, holidays and family gatherings are all around a meal. When your friends invite you out, it's for food and drinks. Even if you decide to stay in with your friends, you're coming over for snacks, right? Snacks and drinks. If you want to celebrate, it's food. If you had a bad day, it's food and probably a drink. If you're dealing with depression and anxiety, it's food, right? So we go to food and we tell ourselves at least it's not drugs, you know. So I don't know if you've told yourself that. I've told myself that while I'm sitting there drowning my sorrows in cookies and like fresh baked cookies with milk or whatever. Telling myself at least it's not drugs. But the thing is it kind of is. It kind of is because food can be an addiction too, right? It's exhausting because every time you scroll social media, there's a new rule, there's another method, there's a fad diet, or someone is shaming you because you don't meal prep right, whatever it is. So we have all of these compounding things that just make food straight exhausting. Straight exhausting, right? And so when it comes to something like meal planning, oftentimes food is like literally the last thing that we want to think about, right? So we do want to simplify though. What I want to help you do is simplify your choices. So when it comes to thinking about food, it's not as overwhelming. And hopefully I can help, like, hopefully the way that we're going to look at this is hopefully it's super helpful. So we kind of want to like clean the slate on everything that we've been told about food and try to look at it in a new way. Try to come at it in a much simpler way. So there is no perfect diet, okay? But you can still find what works for you. So this is how we're going to simplify it. Whole food fuels your body, gives you energy, and makes you feel good, right? So think of food when we were thinking about whole food is food in its most natural state, right? Where think like single ingredient foods. It doesn't have to have a nutrition label because what it is what it is. And you're walking through the produce, you see broccoli, you know it's broccoli. You don't need a nutrition label to tell you that that's broccoli. When you buy chicken breast, it's chicken breast. You don't need a nutrition label because you can clearly see that it's a chicken breast, right? There's nothing added to it. And then processed and ultra processed foods, these are the ones that drain your energy, okay? It makes you feel gross and it triggers cravings and it feeds food addiction, okay? These processed and ultra processed foods are designed to be hyper palatable and trigger all of the things in our brain that triggers cravings and addiction. Fun fact, if you didn't know this, is actually not a fun fact. This is a disgusting fact. And if you did not know this, I'm not going to go too far into it. I'm just going to give you just enough to make you curious. Is did you know that, like, I think it was like in the 80s or 90s, somewhere around there, like around the 90s, as they're starting to realize that actually smoking cigarettes can kill you, it's not good for you. Because I don't know, our generation, we weren't around back then, our parents were, but there was actually a time when they tried to convince you that smoking cigarettes was good for you and that you should do it and that it was social and all of these things. That's why we have an entire generation of people that smoke cigarettes and didn't think anything of it. But as I found out, years go by, it's actually killing people. Okay. Well, at that time, all the people, the big companies that like the cigarette companies that owned this started buying out food companies. So all of the people that had all of this money that were paying scientists to do research in what triggers cravings, what causes addiction, how can we get people to do this more, shifted their focus from getting you addicted to cigarettes to getting you addicted to food. They literally control the same companies, the same people that controlled the cigarette industry back then began to control the top is like the top 4 or 5 major food manufacturers for the United States. So literally the exact same brains that brought the exact same brains that brought us cigarettes and tricked us into being addicted to them are the exact same brains that got us addicted to food. And it's disgusting. But the thing is, the reason that I say that is, yes, absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. I don't recommend going down that rabbit hole. I've been there. Trust me. Just trust that I've listened and I dug and I don't want to know anymore. Other than I understand. There's a reason why when you eat Doritos, you crave Doritos. There's a reason why e there's a reason why when you eat an Oreo, it like satisfies all these different centers in the brain that make you want to eat the whole package, even though you want to stop. Like, have you ever been in that situation where you're eating junk food and you consciously want to stop, but you can't? How disgusting is that? They did that to us. Anyway, that's not what this is supposed to be about. Um, but processed and ultra processed food, they are modified. They are heavily modified foods with artificial flavors, additives, emulsifiers, extra sugar, all of the things that are hitting all the centers in the brain that it's supposed to hit. These are like packaged snacks, frozen food, things like that. So, it's gross. So the thing is, it's not realistic to think that we can completely eliminate all processed foods unless you completely go off the grid, full on homesteader mode where you are growing and canning and processing all of your own food. You know what? That's just not a realistic lifestyle these days. And we're just not going to do that. We're not going to get there. It's not your fault. It's not our fault, right? We didn't ask for this life, but it is our responsibility, right? We have to be aware and we have to learn how to make new choices. So you can get really darn close, right? We can get as close as we possibly can, giving ourselves grace, understanding it's never going to be perfect. But going back to what we said before in the energy audit phase is this isn't about perfection. It's about awareness. And when you are aware, you can begin to make new conscious decisions. And I am going to teach you a framework for looking at this a little bit differently to make those conscious decisions a little bit easier to make. All right. So here are, if you don't know where to start here. This is a list that I started with that is very easy for you to also start with. So food that I refuse to buy from the grocery store. The first thing that I would love to say that I cut out coffee creamer first, but it's not the first thing. It was actually the last thing because I was addicted. I loved my coffee and I hadn't found first form level 1 protein yet. That's how long it took me. I cut all these other things out long before I ever found that, but that was a lifesaver. So, but the very first thing that I actually ever cut out of our kitchen was I just made the choice to not buy like the cream of anything soup. So cream of mushroom soup, cream of chicken, cream of celery. There's like broccoli, cheddar, whatever. Like when you open the can and it like comes out of the can and it's like the exact shit. It's cream of chemical soup. Okay. All of those they barely resemble real food anymore. And I actually just didn't buy it for like 5, 6 years. Any recipe that called for it, I just didn't make anymore. Because I didn't know how to replace it. I know how to replace it now. So if you need help with that, let me know. I'll message you the recipe. But literally, you can do the exact same thing with 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of flour, and a cup of chicken broth, and then add whatever you want. I like to add a little bit of garlic powder and onion powder, salt and pepper. Boom, you've got a can of cream of chicken soup right there, made with ingredients from that you probably have in your kitchen right now. So the thing is you can look at these things, like look at this list and just decide, I'm not going to buy that anymore. All right, so now how do I edit my eating habits to fit that? So, like cream of whatever soup, if that's what it calls for, I either have to modify the recipe or I ain't making that recipe because I'm not going to eat those chemicals, right? Coffee creamer, another one. Honestly, if you don't, I mean, I would say to put protein in your coffee. I mean, it solves a lot of problems with one habit change. But honestly, putting half and half and a teaspoon of real sugar in your coffee is way better on your digestive system than coffee chemicals. I mean, that's what it is. It's literally full of chemicals. Velveeta and Kraft Singles was another one that was really easy for me. Like, not that it was easy for me, but it was an easy choice to make. This is like cheese-like product. This is not real food, okay? I do have a disclaimer here. I buy Velveeta cheese maybe twice a year. And it's when I want to make the Panera Bread copycat broccoli cheese soup. My family loves it. I make it at least once a year. And then maybe if I make like a pot of nachos and like it just doesn't hit the same if you don't put Velveeta in your nachos. But I don't even do that every year. It's like once every 3 years, maybe. But the thing is other than that, I just don't use it. I do not use it. Kraft Singles for sandwiches, just buy slices of cheddar cheese. Um, the box dinners, so like things, Hamburger Helper, the frozen dinners that are like the packages of like, it's like usually pasta, chicken, vegetables, and like a little frozen sauce packet or something like that. The thing is all of those are just they're fortified with the additives and emulsifiers and like artificial flavors and things like that. Even when it says natural flavoring, I forget how they get around it, but that doesn't mean it's real. It's still like a manufactured thing. It's not real food. And that's what all of these things have in it. So if it's hard to think about what should I eat, you can simplify it by saying these things don't have a place in my kitchen anymore. And then we'll just adapt our cooking as we go. You just have to learn. And as soon as I found out how bad certain things, now obviously I have like a list way longer than this, but these are like like the really popular things that might be in every single kitchen that is very easy to cut out. And then we just have to learn, right? So we have to invest in learning how to get on without it, right? And then my reasoning behind not buying big bags of chips and like bottles, like 2 liter bottles of pop or like jugs of juice or things like that is I once you open a big bag of chips, you feel compelled to eat them all because you want to eat it before it goes bad. Same thing as opening a 2 liter of pop. You want to drink it before it goes bad, right? So as soon as that's open, you feel compelled to eat or drink those things. So what I did with bags of chips is I buy a box that has like the little individual size serving bags in it. We've pretty much just gone down to like I really only buy kettle chips. Like I buy a big box of like the kettle chips that we like, and it takes us forever to go because we're hardly ever grabbing a bag of chips. But every once in a while you just make a sandwich and you want one, okay? So we do have it in the house for that. But the idea is that number one, okay, if you don't have a big bag in the house, you're not compelled to eat them all, but also the little bags, like the box that has like the little bags in it, those are more expensive. So it's like I don't want to buy those as often, right? But once you kind of get to that, you might have it in the house and it might last a very long time before you have to buy it again, right? And then we just buy cans. Like I drink Dr. Pepper Zero. It's one of those things I'm trying to drink less energy drinks. So I'm switching to like a Dr. Pepper Zero and then eventually wanting to get off. But the idea is if it's in a can, then I can have one serving and I don't feel compelled to eat it all the time because, or drink it all the time because it's not open, right? And I can just grab one as needed. So that's the idea behind that. But there's little things that's just to give you ideas about how you can adapt to making healthier choices easier and eliminating certain things that just aren't good for you, that honestly just makes you feel yucky. All right, so food is feedback. Listen to your body's feedback. You need to start listening because your body will tell you if it likes what you're eating or not. And some of those things on that other list, maybe you're like, oh, I use that. Maybe that's the reason why I have tummy troubles, right? Because when I stopped using all of that, literally, if I have like a Kraft single piece of cheese, like my mom will buy that to put on a cheeseburger or something. And if I eat at my mom's house and I happen to have that, I feel gross. I because my body is not used to that. It's used to getting real cheese, right? I buy slices of real cheddar cheese. Plus, it's like, okay, so then you can get like provolone and Swiss and it just kind of like, I don't know. To me, it's fun, but I love cheese. But it's things like that. You might notice, okay, so I didn't change a whole lot. I just cut something out and I actually feel kind of better for it, right? But the thing is, your body is going to tell you whether it likes it or not. And sometimes we live with these things. So, like positive. All right. So, positive would be like you have stable energy, you feel good, you're satiated, you wake up feeling, I don't know if you've ever had this feeling like if you're really working on your weight loss or whatever, and you wake up in the morning and you go to the bathroom, you haven't eaten anything yet, you know that that scale went down because like, man, your stomach just feels like I'm not bloated, I feel good, and you just know that you're going to step on the scale. That's waking up. We call it, like, I don't know if it's like a bodybuilding thing, feeling lean in the morning because you're not bloated, you're not gross, your body feels good. You're going to the bathroom regularly. You're not really dealing with sugar cravings or desires for like the greasy food and things like that. So that's all positive feedback. Those are the feelings that we want to chase. But if we're feeling bloated and gassy, or maybe we have like painful gas, I don't know, I have constipation and painful gas. That is how I know that my body does not enjoy. And I am sure your body speaks its language too. You just got to learn how to pay attention to it. So if you're not able to go to the bathroom, or maybe it's the opposite, a lack of appetite. So if you're like never hungry, a lack of appetite is a sign that your tummy is in trouble. It just doesn't know how to tell you. Um, Feeling overly full, so feeling that stuffed, overly full feeling, and then craving like sugary foods or junk foods. So those are like that's a negative feedback. That's like, oh, I'm eating things that my body does not enjoy, okay? So learning how to eat based on how you want to feel. So maybe it's not so much chasing the scale going down or tracking every single calorie or meticulously hitting a protein goal every single day. Maybe it's just listening to my body and eating more of the foods that my body enjoys and less of the foods that it doesn't. So let's reframe this meal planning, what we've all been building up to here. It's not about being perfect or getting your macros right every single day. Like we've said, of course, it would be great if we could, right? But if not getting it right is stopping you from doing it at all, then we need to take a few steps back and start at the beginning, okay? So meal planning doesn't even have to be all 100% healthy meals, okay? So that's kind of what I've been alluding to this whole time is it's about building a framework where you're progress and then you're going to be able to progress from there, right? So maybe the meals that your family enjoys that's in rotation includes some of those ingredients. Well, by becoming, or like some of the ingredients that I said, like I cut out of my pantry, right? Because of what's in it and it makes you feel gross. Well, if you were meal planning and consciously thinking about the meals that are in your rotation, you're going to become aware of those things and be able to make more subtle changes, like changes that you can manageable. That's the word that I was. Why was I struggling with that word there for a second? You can make manageable changes as you go versus being like, okay, we're meal planning now. And I have to hit my macros every day. I have to hit a protein goal every single day. I can't eat this. I have to eat that. So when you start to add all those layers all at once, it's like, whoa, this isn't even a habit yet, right? And I'm already overwhelmed and I don't want to do it. That's what we don't want to do that anymore. So when you're tired and you're hungry and you're done making decisions for the day, the easiest choice is always going to win, right? Meal planning is making those choices ahead of time when you have the energy to think about it so that it is the easy choice and that easy choice is a good one, or at least a better one than what it could be, right? Because even if you're making a meal at home that might not check all of the macro and protein boxes, but it's better than ordering out, right? It's better than going through the drive through. So it's about progression, right? So it's about starting somewhere and progressing. Like I said, my meal planning journey had absolutely nothing to do with healthy food. It was just feeding my family better and just doing better, right? And then because I already had that framework, when it was time to start thinking about calories and thinking about protein, I already had a framework. I just had to add to it, right? I just had to be like, okay, well, I already know how to do this. So now we're just going to make another small adjustment. So that's what I want you guys to think about for meal planning, okay? Is it does not have to be tied to weight loss goals or meaning that now that I'm meal planning, I need the scale to go down or anything like that. It is a habit in its own, exclusive from having fitness or weight loss goals. So, it creates a structure and it removes the daily what should I eat grind, okay? All right, so here is the basic framework, and I want this to be your mantra, okay? It doesn't have to be fancy, it just has to work for me. It doesn't have to be fancy, it just has to work for me. It does not have to be fancy, it just has to work for me, okay? And that's where getting off of social media, I told you every single week we're going to integrate into it. And this is a big thing. That's another reason why getting off of social media is going to be a breath of fresh air for you because you don't have other opinions or influences saying that you should be doing it a certain way. And that's different from what works for you, right? But one of the benefits of doing this is if you can control your kitchen, you can control your health. If you can learn to control your kitchen, you can control your health. Okay. So that might be 5 steps down the road from now, but learning how to control your kitchen right now is going to get you those steps. Okay. So, basic framework breakfast, decide what you like and just like rotate through the options. Okay. I don't know if you try to be fancy and do like a different flavor of egg cup, muffin tin, Pinterest crap. I don't know if you can tell. I don't enjoy literally like when I looked at Pinterest and it was doing all of these things, I'm like, that's just a breakfast scramble made a really difficult way, or like they have these individual little like chicken pot pies that like puff out of like that literally is chicken pot pie that just took an hour and a half longer to make than a normal chicken pot pie. Okay. So don't get too Pinterest brained, okay? Like there's a time when Pinterest is not helpful because it's literally taking something that should be super simple and making it really complicated, okay? So the thing is if you only like 2 or 3 breakfast options, then stop thinking about everything else, okay? Give yourself permission to just let it go. Forget about it, all right? So, for me, I eat protein coffee. I drink my protein in my coffee. So I'm getting 24 to 30 grams of coffee, depending on whether I mix it with collagen or not. And I have sourdough toast. Sometimes I get fancy and I switch it out for a bagel. Bagels are a lot more calories, so it's not very often. But literally, unless it's a Saturday morning and I feel like making a big breakfast spread, I have fancy breakfast for dinner. Like if I want to make eggs and sausage and, hash browns, and if I want to do all of that, I do it for dinner. I don't do it in the morning. It just doesn't work for me. And guess what? I have been happily eating sourdough toast with my protein coffee for probably 4 years. 4 years of breakfast freedom, guys. 4 years. It's great. But the thing is what I do for like Dustin and Logan, they're not like me. They don't do the same thing, but they like certain things. And so I take the things that they like. Logan likes exactly 4 different breakfasts, and I just rotate through. Literally, that's it. This is French toast week. This is waffles week. This is pancake week. This is bagels and a banana week. And that's it. Just choose what you have. And then the thing is you can choose it based on what sounds good, what you have the ingredients for, or just what's next up on the schedule, like I do. So don't think outside of that unless you want to, okay? That's the point, is literally just letting go, feeling like you have to eat like somebody else, okay? Do what works for you. Maybe Greek yogurt and fruit is on your rotation. That's not on my rotation for breakfast. But you get what I'm saying. Literally just sit down, think about the things that you enjoy that you want to have for breakfast, and then don't pressure yourself to work outside of that. All right, so lunch. The easiest lunch options is obviously leftovers, just cooking extra so that you can eat the same thing the next day, or just choosing one thing and being able to eat the same thing every day. That's obviously the easiest one, right? But you just decide what you want. Is it hot? Is it cold? Do you pack your lunch every day, or are you able to take it and store it at work? Do you have access to a microwave? So you just have to think, okay, well, this is my situation. I just have to work within my situation and don't bother myself with what's outside of that. So once you know what you have access to, as far as, like, are you packing your lunch every day? Do you have access to a refrigerator or microwave? Okay, now you know what you're working with. So something that works for us is like I really just rotate through the lunches that I enjoy. I like salads, making like a little snack plate, breakfast sandwich with some fruit. I do like an adult Lunchable or soup in the winter. Those are typically the things that I like. And then I rotate through, just choosing a different variation based on what sounds good or what I have the ingredients for. So if I had like grilled chicken in my salad 1 week, well, then the next time I'm going to have like a taco salad, right? I'm going to rotate through, like, for a snack plate. Sometimes I have like a tuna salad. Sometimes I do like buffalo chicken dip. But whatever it is, it's usually eaten on a cracker with some veggies or fruit or whatever. Literally, I could eat breakfast. I'm team breakfast any time of the day. So, literally what I like to do is just choose whatever I want that's breakfast food, like eggs or whatever. And then I kind of rotate through that. So I just have the things that I like, that I enjoy, and I get variety by having like some sort of different variation or flavor or whatever, but it's usually the same few things, right? And then so once you kind of get that lined out, decide what you like for yourself, set yourself up on like a little rotation, Don't make it difficult. That's just it. Then don't try to go, same thing with breakfast. We don't have to try to go outside of it just because it's not what somebody else is do. Don't worry about it. You don't have to do anything extra unless you want to, okay? Like I said, doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to work for you. You don't have to don't feel like you have to do something um just because somebody else does or because it works for them, right? Just release yourself of that pressure. Snacks, decide what you like to snack on and stock your pantry with it. Don't think outside of your rotation unless you really need to. Mine is beef jerky, cheese, Greek yogurt with fruit, protein bars, protein shakes, things like that. I really don't like an apple with peanut butter. I do like a trail mix every now and then that doesn't have like, not like, what is it? It's like low sodium, like it doesn't have like a lot of salt on it, and it has like the dried fruit and nuts and things like that. Every once in a while, I'll kind of get a craving for something like that, but honestly, same thing, just kind of over and over again. But it's what works for me, and I just make sure I rotate through so that I'm not burning myself out on something. All right, this is what we've all been waiting for, is the dinners, the themed dinner nights. Rotate through until you've exhausted all the options and then choose a new theme. we're gonna go through this in detail in the next slide. So, and then also agreeing on a default go-to meal. All right. So those two I'm gonna break down because that's like the meat and potatoes of the framework, if you will, right? Is just knowing what to make for dinner. All right. So let's look at our worksheet here. We have to get out. Okay. I had to remember how to do that for a second. Oh, can't see. Here we go. All right. Our worksheets. So the thing with the themed dinner nights is if you have 100 options, you might as well have zero. All right. Because when you sit down to plan out your dinners, you have literally the world in front of you with what you could, with all the dinner possibilities. Okay. We've got to learn to narrow that down. And honestly, where this came from was, I like again, it was a Pinterest thing. I saw somebody say that they were doing meatless Monday. Well, that sounds absolutely ridiculous. I'm not going to do meatless Monday, but I can make breakfast food every Monday, you know? And then I was like, well, we do Taco Tuesday. Literally, why are we not doing this every night of the week? Okay. And then it was born. My very first ever themes was I did breakfast for dinner on Monday, Taco Tuesday. I think Wednesday was usually some sort of like a meat and potatoes type thing. Thursday I would have like pasta night or like a one dish dinner, like a casserole type thing. Friday was usually going to my mom and finding out what my mom was making for dinner. But literally it's, and I even put it right on there. Look, go to mom's house. So looking back at like my little menu, with like the meal cards that I would stick in there, I literally had one that said go to mom's house. And I put that almost every Friday. Now that was back when Dustin was in law enforcement and he was working a lot of overnights. So I was packing his food that he would take to work. It would just be me and Logan. So I'd be like, Mom, what you got going on? But the thing is look at all the different possibilities. So let's look at taco night. Okay. So that doesn't mean we're going to have tacos every single night. But if you have Taco Tuesday on your themed dinner rotation, then you can literally look at Taco Tuesday. And for me, it was like any like Mexican inspired thing. So yeah, it might just be typical beef tacos. You could do like salsa chicken in the crock pot and make like whatever you want out of that, right? So you could have tacos or nachos or quesadillas or whatever. We could do chicken and spinach enchiladas. I could do just traditional beef enchiladas. You know, so like right there, I had like a beef Mexican skillet that we really liked. So there's like 5 or 6 ideas, right? So I just took Tuesday night deciding what's for dinner. I took it from all the options in the world down to like 5 or 6 things. Okay, now what do I have the ingredients in the house for that needs to be used? All right, well, it looks like we're having traditional beef enchiladas this week. You know, so it's like literally just narrowing down 100 options down to very few, and then using like what you have in the house, in the freezer, in the pantry. Oh, well, I have most of the ingredients for this, so might as well do that. Right? It narrows down your thinking, okay? And then you just do that. And then you rotate through. You know what? And maybe you decide to have a pasta night and you've gone through all of the pasta options. Well, now I can go over to Pinterest or Instagram or wherever you save your recipes. And now instead of looking at the entire world full of recipes, deciding what to have for dinner on Thursday night, I can say, all right, well, I've got this chicken in the freezer that really needs to be used, and it's pasta night, and I'm up for something new. All right, well, now I'm looking for chicken pasta recipes on Pinterest or Instagram or whatever, and I've narrowed down my search. I know exactly what I'm looking for. Ooh, that sounds good. Let's add that. All right. So it is a way to narrow down your thinking. And then you literally just do that. Do it on repeat. Do it until you've exhausted like all of the recipes, or maybe your family's just sick of having breakfast for dinner on Mondays. My family will never get to that point. But if yours does, okay, it's time to switch it out for a different theme. It's time to try something else on Mondays, okay? Do that until you exhaust it, okay? I've been making homemade pizza on Sunday night for like 4 years now, 3, 4 years, something like that. Dustin just started to tell me that he kind of wished we didn't have pizza every single week. But he also works a lot and he's not here every single time. But the thing is you get to find what works for you. And it's so simple, so simple. Okay. So what you are going to do is write down your first dinner theme rotation. Okay. Now, for me, I only cook 3 or 4 times a week. I do not cook every single night. I work in like a leftovers night, a night where we're gonna fend for ourselves. Or I have like a no cook night, which means it's something cold, which it might be like sandwiches or a salad or something like that out of the fridge that we already have prepped and ready to go. You might look at that honestly, and you need to think about your schedule too. So maybe Wednesday night you have practice and you don't have a lot of time for dinner. So Wednesday needs to be a quick grab and go option, okay? Well, then that's what you're going to plan for on Wednesdays so that you're not caught off guard, right? We know that that is coming. Then the other thing that you can do is like a go-to default meal. Obviously, it's breakfast food for my family because that's literally we will eat eggs and toast, literally, even if that's all it is, like an egg sandwich or something like that, we will eat it without complaining anytime. Even my son, he will eat scrambled eggs with toast any day of the week without complaining. So that's just our default. That's our go-to. So think about times when maybe the meal plan just didn't work out or nothing sounds good or you're just not motivated, you just don't want to, you just don't feel like it. All of the things would be the reason why we would order out or something like that. That's not necessarily on the plan. Um, and but if you have this default go-to that your family will eat, maybe yours is literally like grilled cheese or something like that. It does not have to be fancy, but it's something that you can default to when all else fails. For me, it's making eggs. Um, All right. So then this just kind of helps you go through how to structure your grocery shopping around um having like a meal plan, having things planned out. So you get like your weekly stuff, right? So we got to remember the eggs, milk, butter, bread, things like that that we get every week. And then we need what we need to fill in for the meal plan, right? Things that we always stock our freezer with, and then your pantry staples, right? So if we're running low on beef jerky, we're almost out of cheese sticks, and that's one of our favorite snacks. We want to make sure that the house is always stocked with those things, right? So that is the purpose there. All right. We are almost there, guys. All right. Here we go. One of the most powerful ways to change your behavior is to change your environment. Okay? Control your kitchen and you can control your health to a certain degree, right? But for the most part, that's true. We need to change the environment in our kitchen. And this, whether you're actually working on a weight loss goal or not right now, this gives you structure and control over your kitchen. One of the places that causes a lot of stress in your life, right? So the goal this week is not to go all in on a new way of eating. The goal is to just build better defaults, okay? So get really good at a new framework and then you can upgrade your choices as you go, right? So maybe you just decide one thing. I'm cutting out Velveeta cheese. I'm not going to buy it. It's not going to be in my house. We're going to find different things to eat, okay? So we made one choice, one good choice, and then you can upgrade that as we go, right? All right, guys, that is it. I hope this literally meal planning is near and dear to my heart, and there's going to be so many more resources coming out for you soon. I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek. I am working on a PDF download, kind of like a digital cookbook, right? So if you I don't know if you've ever bought one of those digital cookbooks that you get like this PDF file that's downloaded that you have access to. I am working on a 90-day meal plan. So if you don't want to have to think about it, you just want to buy like my digital download, it's going to be 90 days, no repeats. And so literally, you could literally go by that and then just repeat that because it would be 3 months down the road, right? But it's going to be tons of ideas. So I am working so hard to bring you guys some resources to make this part of your life easier. But I highly, highly encourage you to get to work on making this one of your very first anchor habits because again, it doesn't have to be tied to a weight loss goal or fitness goal or anything. This is about building a framework that gives you back so much energy and capacity during the week by not having to think about this every single day. I want this to get down to where you're throwing it together in 10 to 15 minutes over coffee on Saturday morning, or maybe like Friday afternoon. You usually get done working early. Maybe you get done like at 3 o'clock on a Friday. Well, guess what? Now you've got 15, 20 minutes that you can sit down and meal plan for the following week and hit the grocery store. So, whatever your life looks like, this is flexible. This is flexible. So, with this, as with everything, but especially with this, if you have trouble, if you find a roadblock that you just can't get through, ask me for help. Please, please reach out, ask me for help so that I can help you along, give you advice, give you some tips, work with you on what's going to work for you because I promise you it exists. It's out there. All right, guys. Doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to work for you. Have a great rest of your night, and I will talk to you all very soon.